How's it going, everyone? I'm Alex Raimondo. I'm here with our co-host Justin Tichenel and our guest Avery Young. This is episode 4 of First Down by CoachTools, and we're here with Avery Young. He's a former DB for Rutgers University, also a former DB wide receiver at Coatesville Area High School, alumni. There we go. But Avery is actually down in Florida right now preparing for his pro day. So, Avery, introduce yourself. Mention anything that you feel like I didn't get to say, and tell us what it's like been to have been preparing for your pro day.
What's going on? Avery Young here. Like you said, I'm a DB. Coastal, born and raised, kind of bred there. Helped me get to Rutgers. Definitely can appreciate my coaches like Coach Ortega and everybody like that. But my journey at Rutgers was a good one. It took me 5 years to kind of get out of there and accomplish the things I wanted to accomplish, both as an individual, as a player. I fell short of a couple goals, but the culture of Rutgers football is something that is relentless. Like, just because you fail at something doesn't mean that you can't succeed in other areas of life. And in this case, right now, I'm trying to succeed in my training and preparation, getting ready for my pro day on March 21st back at Rutgers. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, Avery, you're like one of the only football players in college football history to be a starter for 5 years because of that COVID year. A little bit of an asterisk on it, but I think that's one of the coolest stats out there. Maybe a little biased, but
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I wasn't really supposed to have a fifth year, so getting that, was just God's plan. So we're here. We made it through with limited injuries, God willing. So we're happy.
Could you talk about how that's worked transitioning from college like towards what you're going to be doing and like how it's been working with just getting ready overall?
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference is overall, no one's holding your hand anymore. Like, I was a fifth year senior, so I didn't really have to worry about that too much for the last couple years, actually, with being one of the more veteran people on the team. But now there's no coaches pushing you. There's
Yeah.
no training staff on you about weights or anything like that. Like, you could BS all you want in the weight room or during workouts because everything you put in is what you're going to get out. So
Mhm.
that's the biggest thing guys need to understand about getting into this process. You got to really be intrinsically motivated. So it's kind of working out for me in the sense that I always like to learn more about the game. So this is a part of the game that may not be as important overall, but it is important in this phase of life. So I'm definitely taking my time to really like kind of love this part and get accustomed to this part of training for football as if I was playing the game itself.
Gotcha. And what would you say has been the most challenging part of that, other than just having to be intrinsically motivated?
You gotta like untrain a lot of things. As a football player, you're doing a lot of explosive bursts, cuts, movements, jumps, and it's for short periods of time.
Hmm.
It's the same thing in this training, but now it's more technical, I would say. You're not going to be able to cut a certain way and then get to the other cone on the 5-10-5 and cut a different way. No, it has to be mirrored. So that's kind of been the hardest part. Getting the right side of your body to look exactly like the left side of your body for people who are right-handed and vice versa for lefties. So it's like it's a new challenge every day. As soon as you focus on something and feel like you're mastering it, you'll see that something else is going to pop up that you have to correct. So it's definitely like a lot of trial and error.
Cool.
could you elaborate a little bit on what it's like training for, the 40, the 5-10-5? Because as we all know, or a lot of people have their opinions on it, these measurables that we have at the combine, at pro days, they may not, some people would argue that they don't necessarily translate directly to the game. So how do you
Mhm.
feel that it's been balancing training for those measurables specifically as compared to training for the demands that you actually meet on the football field?
I think the perfect example would be how we go from training for the 40, whether that's doing a bunch of starts or flying 20s or whatever it may be, and then drills like the L and the broad and the 5-10-5, and then going right to positional drills after on certain days down here. You just feel different muscles being used when I'm trying to get ready for the 40. And when you get back to the positional drills, the indie drills, it's like clockwork. It's something that you've been doing pretty much your whole life, as long as you've been playing the game. So now I'm trying to train myself how to be a track athlete and to also sharpen my skills as a DB. So it's definitely been challenging because you kind of got to turn off that part of your brain that says, all right, I'm a football player, but you're about to run the L drill. So now you got to be like a L drill master at this point. You got to run your drill your way because everybody gets around those cones differently. There's no one way to do it, and I've learned definitely through the hard way while training down here that my L drill is going to be different from everybody else's simply because my individual self. So it's something that you're going to have to take in phases. I would say like each drill is very like intricate. You got to be locked into the details for that drill. When you go to the next drill, it's time to turn that drill off in your mind mentally, and then get ready for what you train for and the muscle memory and the movements that you train for the next drill.
That's really great advice, especially to, I guess, any recruits that would be out there watching this that feel like, those drills are something that's going to help them get recruited or get them to the next level.
Yeah. And kind of going off of that, Avery, how would you say, like your experience at Rutgers, how do you think that prepared you, especially like being coached up from like your early days all the way towards your fifth year?
It was definitely a role full of adversity. I enjoyed every second of it because it made me who I am right now and the man I am right now. So, it was, trial by fire almost. I was in an organization that's building from the ground up. So we had some rocky times. We had some times where we had some great momentum and triumphs and all that and celebrated. But I would say that the lessons I learned at Rutgers are definitely what are going to propel me into my professional career. Even while being down here just training, falling back onto the skills and the mindset that I learned through playing for Rutgers, which is, chop for Rutgers is everything. And all it is battling through adversity. So while I'm down here with no coaches, no really family support, or there's not even really a staff that you could really fall back on. I'm lucky enough to have a couple teammates down here with me to, talk through difficult moments. But, it has to be something that you have to be, like I said, extremely internally motivated for. And you have to understand kind of what this means for the game. The combine drills don't necessarily translate to playing football, and it's evident because in college I didn't do any of these drills consistently. Maybe once or twice throughout a year, if that. But now that I'm doing it full time, it's challenging to perfect the movements after not them for so long. So Rutgers definitely prepared me for this moment, and now I'm able to take over.
Great insight. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
You kind of spoke on it a bit, but if you can maybe elaborate a little bit more on how you feel Rutgers, technicality wise, has prepared you for, preparing for your pro day. But also, I know that you have some ex teammates that are now in the NFL that have actually, done their thing at their pro day at the combine. Have you ever thought about, or have you, reached out to them, asked them for tips, asked them, what to expect?
Yeah, for sure. Rutgers strength staff and those guys, they did a great job. I feel like I was already in really good shape for like all the explosive movements and being prepared to do all the explosive movements that you have to do while combine training, and all the upper body strength and lower body strength that you need just in the weight room. We are an Olympic lift team, so I did all the clean snatches and all the pulling exercises. With on top of that, we're definitely heavy on the bench press, and just different types, angles, whether it be dumbbells or barbell, whatever it may be. So weight room wise, I feel like that definitely prepared me for the combine drill, like Olympic lift aspect being the 225 test. I feel like that's probably one of the easier things I have to prepare for. Still have to work hard, but now I feel like with the drill work, we could have did more of it, but just the introduction part, it's not something that is foreign to me at this point in my life. So we definitely kind of walked through as much as we had time for, and now I'm kind of putting all the pieces together. You could draw from, your old memories and all that. So it's definitely been good.
Good. And Avery, going more so like on field with like practice and also how your coaches gave you feedback. How do you think that's kind of propelled you to where you are right now? Like,
It was a hard grading system at Rutgers. You couldn't really BS practice. You weren't able to LOS, which just means not running to the ball
yeah,
or finishing a player, and LOS and loaf, all those terms were how you were graded by actually specific coaches whose that was their sole job. They would watch the practice film to see who was going hard, basically. So with that in mind, it kind of instilled in me a sense of urgency every time I'm stepping on the field, whether it's to do drills or whatever else we may be doing in combine prep. Even with our yoga sessions, it's kind of like everything's more important in my head than what it may actually be, knowing that everything's important though. So I would say that the Rutgers culture is definitely carrying me through this experience.
Loafing, like a loaf of bread? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so loaf is lack of finish, and that's more for the offensive side of the ball at Rutgers. But in other programs, they don't have loafs and loafs. They usually just have loaf, which just means lack of finish. So you're not finishing plays. You're not, for running backs, I don't know, bursting two stripes or receivers catching the ball, bursting two stripes, stuff like that. Linemen finishing on their man when blocking. Stuff. So that's the biggest thing about loafs and loafs.
Yeah, man, thank God we didn't have that when I was in college because our coach would call out when the D lineman didn't run after the ball was thrown. But
Right, running up the stacks.
if I had to hear loaf every single time I didn't run
Yeah.
all the way to the receiver 20 yards downfield, we had a problem.
It was rough for a lot of people, man. They would put up the numbers, the charts with your name on it, and how many loafs or losses you had in practice each day. So you definitely were held in check.
So do you think that is that kind of the extent of something that was measured watching film, or was there anything else that was measured or tracked that your coaches would essentially use to grade you throughout the weeks during practice, whether it be spring ball, off season, in season?
So besides that, our main factor that drove the whole program was FTC, and I would say the biggest part of it was trust, which is just like a basic principle. Everybody understands the basic definition of trust, but ours is more centered around accountability. So whether you were late to class, late to a lift, late to practice, that trust aspect, somebody was supposed to be holding you accountable, whether it was the leader of your position room, a position coach, unit coach, OC or DC. So that was the big thing for Rutgers, and it definitely holds true to this day because now when I see things, it kind of just annoys you, and you revert back to your mindset when you're in college. You're like, all right, he's breaking whatever rule in FTC, and I kind of gotta shake it sometimes. But I'm sure in the next level it will help me in my career.
Very interesting because
yeah,
for when we think about grading players, we don't really think about the intangible aspects of it or culture aspects. We usually think of statistics, something that you can really measure. But it's really interesting thinking about how you can measure something intangibly, and that'll help build up the culture of the team and your players.
Yeah, definitely. It was something that kept kids off the field too. If you weren't living up to the standards off the field, then you're not going to get on the field at all. You won't be on the plane trip, nothing. So it definitely kept some good players from playing when they were younger, but they learned fast.
yeah. And I think that's the key, especially like at any level, really, just learning and adapting as you go. Because if you're not playing up to the standard, then you're not. It's not good enough, and just understanding what's expected of you and having your coaches bring that out of you, I think, is like vital to anybody's success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for anybody who's transitioning towards the next level, whether it be from high school to college or college to the pros, and how they should handle that whole process?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say for high school recruits, excuse me, it's a little harder these days. With social media and all that, the camps and the 707 tournaments, it's kind of more complicated than say when any of us play. High school ball, getting ready to go to college. So, yeah, it's gonna be hard to navigate at first, but you only need one school to like you. I know it's like the cool or the flashy thing to have 30 offers or as many as you can, pretty much, but the whole shopping around and trying to find a million, especially Power Five schools to like you. It's this experience, and I'm not knocking it, but you need one at the end of the day. So choose that one wisely because with this transfer portal, I see kids that I came to college with getting trapped in the transfer portal, and now they're like applying for their sixth and seventh year. So it's a tricky business because at the end of the day, college football is business, and for college guys trying to transition to the NFL level, just take the advice of your coaching staffs when they say, well, mainly when you're getting ready to leave, senior years rolling around, take that advice that most coaches, good coaches, I would say, in good programs, prepare their guys for that transition. They say no one's going to be holding your hand, no one's going to baby you anymore. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. You don't have to wake up for any of these workouts. They're not mandatory anymore. So just keep that in mind because once you get there, it's going to be a culture shock probably for the first week. You're like, damn, I could BS all this and still go to my pro day and no one's going to say anything. But you get in what you put in. So you get out what you put in, I should say. So that would be the biggest thing. And if you have teammates in that next level, definitely know them. I have good friends and teammates that I play with that are in the next level. My guy Trey Avery with the Titans, he's giving me tons of advice, and he actually recommended me to the Test Academy down here in Miami. So I trusted him, and I decided to come down here, and I don't regret it at all. Got a lot of other friends in the league too now that I can call on and lean on when I need it. So definitely don't burn your bridges.
Cool.
That's great advice, Avery. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Avery, and really appreciate the time and hope, good luck with everything as you go through the whole process here.
Appreciate y'all.
All right, thanks.
Yep.